Okay. Um, is the mic okay? Can you hear me somewhere at the end? Not so good. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Seems like I have to put it higher. Is it better now? Okay. So technical guys seems to be ready. So I will start. My talk today is about functional testing in TYPO3. Yeah, nice special effects. Functional testing in TYPO3 6.2. This is a cool new feature we implemented just a few months ago. Yeah, there is some naming confusion about different kinds of tests like integration tests, functional tests, acceptance tests. So maybe I'll first tell you what this talk is not about. So this will be not about Selenium, acceptance tests, interface testing, and stuff like that, doing stuff in your browser. This is not the talk about. It's also not about JavaScript and TDD, BDD, and stuff like that. Yeah. Test-driven development. Yeah, sorry if you were confused and you go to this talk just to hear something about Selenium, but yeah, you won't. Yeah, I heard that I will have many business-related guys on my talk, so I was asked to not to make it too technical. So let's check it. How many of you are programmers and doing programming stuff? Okay. Okay. Yeah. And the business, just to check if half equals half. Okay. 2. Great. Anyway, I prepared. The first part is less technical, and we'll give you an overview. What is it about? Where and when do we need it? And then we have this cool, fancy technical part, diving deep. But yeah, you will have to wait a moment for it. About me, my name is Tymoteusz Motylewski. It's probably hard to pronounce, but anyway. I'm an X-based team member. I live in Poland, and I do a lot of open source evangelizing. I'm putting a lot of pressure on universities and different communities to propagate the idea of the open source. I'm also head of development at Wikipedia company and an organizer of TYPO3 camp in Poland. We had this like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, one more marketing slide. Yeah, I'm really finished in one slide. Don't worry. This is my company. Yeah, we do TYPO3 Magento. We have 3 offices in Poland. Yeah, please visit us whenever you are in Poland. Yeah, so let's get back to the topic. Functional tests and TYPO3 6.2. This is a really cool new feature we implemented. So basically, what we did for a core is to implement some framework which you can use to start writing your own functional tests. And of course, yeah, you might ask, why do we need yet another testing framework or test type and stuff like that? Yeah, of course, developers really likes new cool stuff and really likes doing stuff from scratch. And yeah, you probably use plenty of other testing tools in your projects. I mean, who does manual testing? Probably all of you in projects. Acceptance tests like Selenium, performance unit. Yeah, even core of TYPO3 itself has like 6,000 of unit tests. So you probably know all of them by heart. And you might ask yourself, why the hell do we need yet another type of the test? Isn't it enough just to write a unit test and then test the interface with Selenium? Basically, you can divide the tests and the different kind of tests I showed on the previous slide into two different areas. The one on the top are the tests which checks whether the software is making the right thing, so the thing customer wants it to do. And the bottom part is whether the software is actually running properly, whether we implemented everything correctly. And putting this together with the previous slide with all those different kinds of tests, we'll came up with something like that. So at the top, this I is the customer and manual testing. And as you can see, this is a pyramid. So the size of this level means how many tests should we write. And as you can see, we should have a really small amount of manual testing because it's time-consuming and it's expensive. Then we should have a little bit more of automated GUI testing, like Selenium. Yeah, sorry to confuse you. I said I will not talk about Selenium, but yeah, still, it will pop up on some slides. So, and then we have the middle part is integration tests, component tests, something like that. And at the bottom, the basis of the working software are the unit tests. And as you can see, we should have a lot of unit tests, then a little bit less of functional integration tests, and just much less Selenium tests. And functional tests I will be talking about are placed somewhere in the middle, where you see those dashed lines. So yeah, some of you might call them integration tests or component tests, but basically what functional tests do is to test the whole functionality end to end. So we test much more complex scenarios than with unit tests. Yeah, in TYPO3 core, for example, we have 6,200 unit tests run for each commit. So we have this basis on the bottom, which is really big. And then right now we have, I don't know, 12 functional tests, and we have no Selenium tests. So yeah, we are still in the pyramid, but as you can see, we're lacking some tests on the top. And now you see all this theory about testing and pyramids and Egypt and stuff, and it's probably sounds really nice, but do we really need them, or when can we write? When should we write functional tests? The answer is quite simple. I mean, whenever you have legacy code or you want to test something end to end, it's the place for functional tests. Whenever you don't want to take care of mocking the system, or it's not possible to mock the system, or you want to go beyond the limitations of PHP unit and for example, the mocked virtual file system. And what's the most important, when you want to test whether the software is doing the right thing. So not only that the algorithm is correct, but actually the outcome of this algorithm is what customer would expect. And yeah, to make you better understand when should we use functional tests and why do we need them, let me tell you a short story why we started to implement them for the TYPO3 core. Yeah, the story begins at the workspace sprint, yeah, long time ago, 3 months in Stuttgart. And this workspace sprint was about fixing some bugs and also to provide a basis for supporting workspaces in XBase. And I don't know, how many of you have done any project with workspaces or dig into the workspaces code? Okay, we have some of you, that's great. And was it fun? Okay, yeah, this was also not very funny for us, and especially when we need to fix something and to understand the logic. It was really complex. I mean, workspaces is a part of the TYPO3 core when it's not good to go alone. And if you go with a partner, make sure you are tied up with a rope to the second person, so you don't, fall somewhere and die. It's a really dark place. But anyway, the goal of the sprint was to improve the situation, to make it run better. But still, we didn't know whether the fixes we're going to make, whether they break it or we'll fix it. So whenever we do some fix, we provide a patch for workspaces. It's really hard to make sure that this patch is not breaking some other part in a different part in the core. Because of that, patches for workspaces are really hard to review, and they are sitting in Gerrit for a really long time. I think just a few guys from TYPO3 core were brave enough to dig into and understand the logic behind it. And the next motivation was that workspaces are really hard to test with unit tests, because they do a lot of database operations, and the code is really complex and not well structured. So they're extremely hard to test, cover with unit tests. So we gathered together in Stuttgart on an X-based code sprint, and we started digging into workspaces, and then we found out it's no go. We cannot just start fixing it. We are too afraid of messing stuff up. So we say that we should get some quality assurance process in place. So whenever we improve some part of the workspaces, we know that the stuff is working and we are not breaking anything else. So yeah, functional test to the rescue. We came up with the idea that we need functional tests. So yeah, as I said before, it was really hard to test it with unit tests. So we sit together with Christian Kuhn and Helmut Hammel and started writing the functional testing framework. It was really fun. We enjoyed it a lot. And still, you might ask, okay, you did some new tool. You're programmers, you love it. But couldn't you just try harder and write some unit tests after that? And the answer is no. Functional tests and unit tests are quite different. And for this project, for workspaces, and for many of your projects, it would probably won't make sense to start writing unit tests before functional tests. And here is why. In the unit tests, what we do is to test a little, as small as possible chunk of code. So we test one method, one function. And the rest of the system is mocked. It's not real. We just prepare some dummy objects which returns, hard-coded values to abstract from the whole system and just to make sure that this little piece of code is working. But if the methods and the functions in workspace module or any other of your modules are really huge, then if you need to mock like 20, 30, 50 different components of the system, it doesn't make sense. It's so hard that you will spend like few days just implementing one test. Another thing you need to do with unit tests is that they're executed on the same environment, one after another. So you need to make sure that your test is cleaning up after himself. So there are no side effects. Yeah, we had a lot of bugs like that in a TYPO3 core, that some unit tests modified the system or modified some globals, and then the next test was broken. And it doesn't have to be the next test. It can be some test like 50 or 80 tests after that. And as we have like over 6,000 tests, it's really hard to find those side effects and influence of one test on another. Also, unit test has limitations, like virtual file system we use to do all operations on during unit tests. It's not supporting some functions like file locking or globe search. And still, unit tests are for different purpose. We're checking whether the code is coded right, so the code is correct technically. And the functional tests, on the other hand, do the other thing. They check whether the code is what we expected. And as you can see, I put some really hard statements here. Like we have real objects, we have real database and real file system in the functional tests, and we have no side effect. I mean, how is it possible? I just told you that with unit tests, we have all those kind of dependency between tests, and we have to clean up and prepare the environment and mock everything. And now I'm telling you that we can do different stuff for the functional tests. Yeah, how is it possible? Actually, it is. We are doing the whole new, for each test, we are preparing whole new environment in functional tests. So we have no side effects. And I mean, this is the end of the part one, so the overview. Now it's the exciting technical part. So let's dive deeper. How does it work? Yeah, we have just our favorite TYPO3 installation. We have some folders, file admin, TYPO3, TYPO3 conf, TYPO3 temp, and stuff like that. Then we call PHP unit, and we start some functional tests. What's happening then? Functional testing framework is creating a folder in TYPO3 temp with some random number at the end. And basically, it's bootstrapping the whole new TYPO3 instance there. So it's creating the empty file admin folder. It's symlinking the TYPO3 sources there. It's also configuring the TYPO3 extension and local configuration in TYPO3 conf folder. And then we are creating a new test database, completely new, fresh, empty. So after that, we have a full TYPO3 setup in our TYPO3 temp folder, and we do it for each test. So as you can imagine, after the test is done, we are just cleaning stuff up. We are throwing database away. We are deleting all the files from the from this functional folder. This way, we are sure that there are no side effects, because each test is runs in the completely new environment with a new database. And also, what we also do is that we run each test as a separate PHP process. So this way, we don't even share any memory between tests. So we have a really great setup with no side effects, and we can run each test independently. So basically, in your functional test, you can change anything you want. You can write to the database, you can read from the database, you can write to files, you can delete stuff, you can blow everything up. It's up to you. You can do anything you want with your system. And that's really cool. I mean, you don't have to worry that you will pollute the original system of your tests. You can do whatever you like, whatever heavy load or heavy work you want to do. And then after the test is finished, you just throw the stuff away. Yeah, this is just for the overview. In a setup of the test, so for each test case, we have a new TYPO3 instance. And what's also really cool, you can provide with your functional tests, you can provide some dummy extension. And this extension will be loaded in this new TYPO3 instance and used for testing purposes. Because right now, the problem we have is that we cannot test with the current TYPO3 core, we cannot test some TCA relations because we don't have data. We don't have TCA configuration for some object like M2M relations. We cannot test any X-based functionality related to record relations or for example, cascade deletion because we don't have any X-based extension with such a setup in TYPO3 core. So we cannot test it. But this way, with the new functional testing framework, we can just provide a dummy extension, which will, for example, something like X-based block, which will provide some few objects, TCA configuration, and before the test is run, this extension will be loaded. And so we have all the data, we have the relations between objects and all the configuration, and then we run the tests based on that. And yeah, in your extension, you can specify which core extensions you want to load, so you don't have to load the full core. Yeah, then the next part is actually testing. So usually it looks like that. You load some data from the fixtures. I will tell about fixtures a little bit later. Of course, perform some action. I don't know, put some stuff to the database, localize a record, or create a workspace, anything you want, and then you assert the results. So in some tests, it might be like querying database on a low level and checking whether the database contains the correct values. And then in a tear down, yeah, we just throw everything away. And any questions so far? There should be one, yeah. Yeah, actually, this was the question I was waiting for. Yeah, sure. Right, I haven't tested this on Windows, and right now I don't really care, to be honest, because I mean it was more important for us to provide something which works for 90% of the installation, and then if somebody is interested on running this on Windows, then yeah, please send a patch. But this way we have something we can use for the further development. Yeah, how slow is it? Travis, the server which runs our TYPO3 unit tests needs 1 second to execute one test. It means it takes him 1 second to create new TYPO3 instance, create new database, fill database with data, run the test, and then drop database and clear all the files. So it's not too slow. Of course, yeah, if you compare it to unit tests, it's not so fast. But I mean, for so many operations, it's really good. What we find out actually during the workspace sprint, 1 second, is that on Christian machine, tests were running like here, 1 second per test, and on my machine it was like 30, 40 seconds per test. And we found out that the issue is with MySQL settings, and the one very important one is the InnoDB Viper table. If you set it to 0, yeah, I managed to decrease the setup time, so the test time from 40 seconds to like 5 seconds. Yep.
Yeah, the 1 second
I have no idea, to be honest. You should go to the Travis website and check.
So,
But on my laptop, it took like 3 seconds.
so this is a setting that you suggest to get it fast.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's not the settings you want to have on production, but for testing, it can save you a lot of time. Because what we do is to create a lot of tables and then to flush them for each test. And if you have the settings enabled, then file system have to create a lot of files, and seems to be a problem for MySQL.
But it will, if you keep the machine, it will, because the InnoDB file space will not be garbage collected, so the
Yeah, that's right.
InnoDB file will grow in time. So if you do like run it 100 times, I would expect it will start slowing down in the end again, because the file will get really huge.
Yeah, so you don't run functional tests on production.
Yeah, okay.
You need to have the separate testing infrastructure. Or you have to wait. Yeah.
We talked about the spec of the servers, but what was the size of the website used for test? Was it a big database, 30 megabytes or 30 gigabytes?
Mm.
File system? Does it have a lot of PDF files in the database, for example?
Yeah, it's not important. We are creating a fresh new TYPO3 instance, which is clean for each test. So the database is empty. File system is empty. Of course, it has the required folder structure, but nothing else. If you want to put some test files or test data, you need to provide it with the test.
So it's not a test from real database to the
No.
data?
We are not reusing the database from the original system. This is completely separate. Yeah, how to run tests? You can run the whole suite or just a single test. Yeah, this is just for making the slides complete, so you can check it out later. API. I would just go quickly over the API to show you some functionality we have in the testing framework. Yeah, the most important part, your new test should inherit from functional test case. This is the base class for all functional tests. And yeah, of course, your test needs to inherit from it. Then if your tests require some core extensions to be loaded in the system, you need to override the core extensions to load field in the class and just put an array with the extension keys. Then we have we have a way to get to the paths of the original file system and to the new test file system. And the original one is stored in the original root constant, and the instance path for the new for each test is stored in the instance path field. Yeah, as I said before, you can load dummy extensions. I'm not sure if this is visible or not. But basically, what we can do is to provide some extensions which should be loaded for the test. So you just pack them in the folder by your functional tests, and with this command, you can just make functional test framework load them. And we have already a few examples of the working functional tests in TYPO3 core were also executed on each commit. And those are data handler test and data handler test in the workspace module. And so whenever you're going to implement your own tests, I think it's a good idea to take a look there. How does it work? And to inspire yourself. Then there was a question, what about data, and what data do we have in the system? So the answer is that we don't have any data. The database is completely empty. It only contains the structure. But you can provide the XML features with the data you want to load for a test. This is this is a fixture from the workspace module, I think. So basically, it's a XML file where you have a nodes, the data set, this is the parent node, and then you have a nodes for each table. So you can see pages, and then you have table fields, ID, PID, title, and stuff like that. You don't have to put all the fields, just the one you want to fill. And then we have another pages record with different UID. And you can combine multiple records for different tables in one file. So as you can see, the last one is a TT content with some data. And there is an API in functional testing framework to load the fixture data. So you just call load fixture file, and you pass a path, and that's it. You get your data in the database. Yeah, that's more or less it. Waiting for questions. The hard ones, please. Yeah.
Have you any tools for creating extra data? Because this can be quite much work.
I mean, core itself already have few fixtures with data, so you can reuse them. For example, there is fixture for backend users, for TT contents, for pages overlay, for workspaces. So in your module, you can just load the existing fixtures. Or if you use MySQL Workbench, you can just select the output from some select query and export it as XML. And basically, this is the same format as here.
Do you have an example code of the functional test that you created?
Yeah, sure.
Just to get an impression on what it looks like.
Yep. Okay. Okay, let me clean it up a little bit. So how does it look like? In TYPO3, for example, in the core, is it big enough? Can you read it? In the core, systext core, we have tests, and then as you can see, we have unit tests and functional tests. And inside functional tests, we have, for example, data handling, data handler test. So as you can see, it's inheriting from the functional test case. This is the base class for all functional tests. We're calling the setup of the parent class, and then we need to get the working backend user. So we are initiating it here. And as you can see, we are importing the fixture file here. How does this fixture file look like? It's here in the fixtures folder. And as you can see, we have already some of them. And yeah, we have pages. We have a few pages with different titles, UID. Yeah, and then we have sample tests. Let me see if we have something simpler. Okay. So for each test, we will load this fixtures pages data. Because all those tests are depending on the some pages being loaded. So we call it in the setup. But of course, you can also load the fixture file directly in the test. Yeah, we called get data handler. This is the method we implemented here. So we are actually creating the normal object. We are not mocking the data handler. We are creating the full instance, full working instance of the data handler. because we want it to work. We want it to save stuff to the database. Okay, so we have a data handler. We prepare some data array. We want to pass it. And then we call start and process data map command. So what we are doing here is that we are creating a new TT content element. So we are passing the comment to the data handler, which should result in new TT content being saved to the database. So this is the comment for a data handler. We are calling start and process data map. Then we are checking whether the UID returned by data handler is greater or equal than 1. So it was saved to the database. And the most important part is here. So we are actually querying the database with the low-level TYPO3 API and checking whether the TD content in a database is the same we expected.
Does it use its own connection to the database, or does it use the same database connection? So
the same. I mean, this is the same as you would write an extension which do the same stuff.
yeah, but there could be a failure in the database layer, so
I mean, sure. In functional tests, you're testing stuff. They have the whole stack of the system. So if one of the components fails, then yeah, you'll get failure.
yeah, but it could be that the failure is in the test is right, but because of the failure of the low-level database functions.
For example, what do you mean?
Yeah, just a thought.
I mean, you mean that the MySQL server is just go away, or the TYPO3 MySQL API is broken?
Other tests will fail.
Yeah,
So,
sure. And basically, if it will be a problem with database, probably the test will fail at the setup,
yeah.
because we couldn't have created the yeah, at the beginning in a setup. Let's go maybe let's get to the setup in the base class. And what does it do? As you can see, it's bootstrapping the new TYPO3 instance, and it's also setting up a database. So if there will be a problem with the TYPO3 API with a connected database, it will fail at the setup. Yeah, so this, what else can I show it? Yeah, if you go to the base class, there is also some comments how to run the tests, and all the fields are really well described, so you can check it out while writing your own tests. Any more questions? Yeah.
Will this stuff be in the final release of the 6.2?
It's already there since August.
And is there a plan to include it in 5.4.5?
No. Because it depends on the new bootstrap, which is a part of the 6.0. Yep.
But it's based on PHP unit.
Yes, that's correct. So you can do all the asserts you want, and use any PHP unit magic you want. Yeah, I actually created it. So yeah, that's right. That's a really valid point. There is a wiki page about functional testing, and I put there some useful stuff. So, for example, how to run tests, how to write them, and yeah, some technical details. Yeah, feel free to contribute to it and to put some additional stuff. More questions? Okay, so thank you. Yeah, if you have any questions later, and yeah, just catch me. And also, if you would like to start writing functional tests, but you are wondering which use case to start with, I can provide you some examples I have in mind of the functional tests we want to write, so you can get started really quickly. So if you want to start and to learn how does it work, just drop me a line and I will help you. Thanks.